com with my buddy Doug up in St. George, Utah, that has put out another interesting weekly newsletter. Doug, give us a thumbnail. What's happening?
Well, in a nutshell, our leading story is again about this offshore wind machines.
Don't do that. Don't do that to me. Don't do that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The Biden administration had a scientist on their team that authored an internal memo warning of the impacts offshore wind development may have on marine life months before all this started.
Yep.
So, they're ignoring anything the scientists have to say, anything the fishing industry has to say, that could, this is disrupting the endangered Atlantic whale. So what do you do? I don't know. Oh, my gosh. And not only that, in New Jersey, there were over 260,000 people that signed a petition to halt this offshore wind farm surveys. I mean, not a lot of people in favor of it. So there you go, bud.
Well,
moving on.
Yeah, I'm going to move on. This whole wind farm, solar farm issue is the biggest bunch of crap being fed to the American populace from the left-wing Democratic Green movement. That's all I'm going to say.
You know what, Don? It's no different than this administration's thrust to drown us in debt.
Oh, yeah.
This. As well as I do, this past week, Biden wants $5 trillion from the taxpayers to help.
Excuse me, correction, $6.8 trillion.
Well, that's what he wants to spend.
I know. That'll thrust us into the Great Depression again. He knows it, we know it, and what the hell are they thinking? But anyway.
Right.
Moving
on. All right, let's move on. In Wyoming, a rare disease that affects only pronghorn antelope has killed more than 600 pronghorns in Wyoming. It's an ongoing thing. I don't know what the disease is. It's a pathogen of some sort, and it's just incredibly fatal. So be aware, Wyomingans, or whatever you call yourselves.
We call them we call them cowboys.
Cowboys, yeah. What was I thinking?
This is the M. bovis pathogen that's killed over 600 pronghorns. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, bad news. You remember the rattle trap from years ago? I fished with the rattle trap many times. A good bass catcher.
Well, absolutely. That set the bar for lipless crankbaits. Absolutely.
Yes. And Bill Lewis, the inventor, was inducted into the Hall of Famers. Now, I can't say enough about the lure. I had several of them, and I used them a lot when we were up north for smallmouth. There's an article in our newsletter this week about how do you flay and fix a pike for eating. And by the way, pike's pretty good eating. I've eaten a lot of it.
Most excellent. A lot of places can figure it a junk fish because it's so slimy to handle. But once you get past that, get them all dressed out, get them filleted out. Oh, yum.
Yeah, they're very good. It's learning how to fillet them. That's all. I'm going to skip down to an article or a focus on North Dakota. They are introducing a bill to cap unfair tournament fees during tournaments. The National Walleye Tour had to spend over $45,000 with a full field, and if they had, for high school fishing, if you got more than 15 boats, it's a $10,000 conservation fee. No other state does this. I mean, to this extent.
Really?
The cost. Yes. Most of these conservation fees run in the $25 to $50 type of thing.
Yeah.
North Dakota, what they're doing this to keep tournaments out of their state.
Yep. That's exactly the motive.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the what's the Democratic or excuse me the partisan issue of whoever presented this H Bill 1538?
Oh, good grief.
Smells like a Democrat to me.
We have the only name I see here, but I think it's in support of this bill, Jeremy Olson. But I don't see. I don't know where that's come from.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it, Don.
Okay. Well, not a big deal. I was just curious.
Yeah.
You know, most of the hairball crap that we get shoved down our throat comes from the Democratic left.
Right. All right. Well, we're going to move down to which I think there's some controversy in my head about California. They had just announced $22.5 million to benefit salmon. Now, this is protecting salmon, addressing climate impacts, wildlife corridors, etc. When a week ago, they took all the water coming down, I don't know what river it was, and moved it over to the farmers. Now, I don't know the political aspects of all this. Yeah, farmers got to have water too. But
you're talking to me, and that's a very slippery slope.
Yes, it is. I don't deny that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right thing is here to do. You got $22.5 million for projects addressing salmon, basically, but yet you're moving water over to and taking it away from salmon. I don't know. I don't get that.
Well, you're not talking draining the rivers.
No.
For one thing. So my question to you would be, or the author of the article is, what percentage of water in those river systems is being diverted for agriculture?
I don't know. I don't have the answer for that.
And then the second question is, if we don't grow food in these areas, it's like Yuma in southern Arizona. That particular region down there is suffering from the lack of water. It hasn't been quite so bad right now, but summertime comes, this blessed precipitation and rainfall, snowfall that we're getting right now, that's going to run out. We're going to be, in my estimation, right back into a drought situation with lack of rain. And the food producers down in that area that depend on the Colorado River for farming purposes and irrigation produce about 93% of the vegetables that we consume in the United States. So I don't know exactly where you guys are talking about over there in California, but my guess is, that particular area over there is a big food producer, and they've got to have water. Now, I don't know what the groundwater situation is, what the water table is. It's kind of a wait-and-see thing, I think. But my best guess, we need to save the resource, but we also need to employ common sense when it comes to food producers.
Yeah, Don, I don't attempt to at all to take away from the fact that this country has to have food sources, no question about it. But what most people don't know is the Southwest, and that is part of California, is the biggest supplier of vegetables and fruits, etc. Taking nothing away from the eastern people, because that's all wheat and corn.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, and I don't pretend to have the answer. I'm just bringing up the issues. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Let's move on. In Pennsylvania, this is one interesting article I read about what's called the tame grouse. And literally, if you watch this video, literally, that's exactly what it means. These are grouse that wouldn't call them human friendly, but when you watch this video, you can definitely tell they're not afraid of a human being. That makes no sense, but that's the way it is. And from what I gather out of this article, they just want to know where these are, so they're asking outdoorsmen, hunters, etc., to let the Game and Fish Department know where these birds are. So it's fascinating. I didn't know these birds ever existed. A tame grouse.
Yeah. Well,
there you go.
That's crazy. I'm gonna have to look at that.
It is.
Yeah, I've watched the video, and they're candidates for table fare. So.
Well, yeah. All right, let's move on. Under invasive species, we have a mushroom called the death cap. Posted on my newsletter because people need to know this is the world's most lethal mushroom, the death cap. Be aware. I wouldn't know one from another, frankly, if I'm out walking in the woods, but there's a picture of them here in the newsletter.
Well, rule number one, you don't mess with mushrooms, toadstools, or anything else that looks alike.
No. You got to know what you're picking. There's no question about mushrooms. All right. Under the Operation Game Thief, down in Florida, they have finally arrested a poacher for wild turkey, deer, and other violations. He was charged with taking over season bag limits, taking over the season bag limit for deer and turkeys, scheming to defraud, armed trespassing, unlawful use of two-way communication device, and cheating. They didn't post what they nailed this guy with. His charges or time or what his penalties were. But I'm sure this boy is going to spend a few bucks.
Yep. My guess he's pretty much done.
Yeah. Couple niceties in the newsletter, some legislation information, if you follow that kind of stuff. But that's about it, Don.
Okay. Very cool. If you guys don't have the newsletter, don't get the newsletter, you can sign up for Doug's Hard Work at huntingfishing.com. There is always a look at what's happening across the country, some good, some not so good, and some really bad. That stuff, especially coming out of the Biden administration, like the offshore wind farms. There's another proposed restricted on bluefin tuna fisheries that you might want to take a look at that's going to affect 2023 and 2024. So pretty important stuff. Good job, Doug. We'll do this again next week.
Okay.
Sign up for the newsletter at huntingfishing.com.